repeat yesterday's lesson.
But I don't like German. It's all a becoming language. I know perfectly well I look quite plain after my German lesson.
Child, you know how anxious your guardian is that you should improve yourself in every way. He lays particular stress on your German.
Uncle Jack is so very serious. Sometimes he is so serious I think he cannot be quite well.
Your guardian enjoys the best of health, and his gravity of demeanour is especially to be commended in one so comparatively young as he. I know no one who has a greater sense of duty and responsibility.
I suppose that is often why it's a little bored when we three are together.
Cecily, I'm surprised at you. Mr. Worthing has many troubles in his life. Idle merriment and triviality would be quite out of place in his conversation. You must not forget his constant anxiety about that unfortunate young man, his brother.
I wish Uncle Jack would allow that unfortunate young man, his brother, to come down here sometime. We might have a good influence over him. You certainly would. You know geology and German, and things of that sort influence a man very much.
I do not think that even I could have an influence on a character that is, by his own brother's admission, irretrievably weak and vacillating. Indeed, I do not know whether I should wish to reclaim him. I'm not in favour of this modern mania of turning bad people into good people at a moment's notice. As a man sows, so shall he reap. You must put away your diary, Cecily. Indeed, I do not know why I should keep a diary at all.
I keep a diary in order to enter the wonderful secrets of my life. If I didn't write them down, I should probably forget all about them.
Memory, my dear Cecily, is the diary that we all carry about with us.
Yes, but usually chronicles things that have never happened and couldn't possibly have happened. I believe that memory is responsible for nearly all the 3-volume novels that Moody sends us.
You must not speak slightingly of the 3-volume novel, Cecily. I wrote one myself in earlier days.
Did you really, Miss Prism? How wonderfully clever you are. I hope it did not end happily. I hate novels that end happily. They depress me so much.
The good ended happily and the bad unhappily. That is what fiction means.
I suppose so. It seems awfully unfair. Was your novel ever published?
Alas, no. The manuscript was unfortunately abandoned. I use the word in the sense of lost or mistaken. To your work, child. These speculations are profitless.
I see dear Dr. Chasuble coming up through the garden.
Dr. Chasuble, this is indeed a surprise.
And how are we this morning? Miss Prism, you are well?
Miss Prism has just been complaining of a slight headache. I think it would do her so much good to have a short stroll in the park with you, Dr. Chasuble.
I have not mentioned anything about a headache, Cecily.
No, I know that, Miss Prism, but I felt instinctively that you had a headache. Indeed, I was thinking about that and not about my German when the rector came in.
I hope, dear Cecily, that you're not inattentive.
Oh, I'm afraid I am.
That is strange. Were I fortunate enough to be Miss Prism's pupil, I would hang upon her lips. I spoke metaphorically. My metaphor was drawn from bees.
We do not expect him until Monday afternoon.
Ah, yes, he likes to spend his Sundays in London. He's not one of those whose sole aim is enjoyment, unlike that unfortunate young man his brother seems to be. I shall see you both no doubt at evensong.
I find, dear Doctor, that I do have a headache after all, and a short stroll might do it good.
Oh, well, with pleasure, Miss Prism, with pleasure. We might go as far as the schools and back.
That would be delightful. Cecily, you will attend to your political economy in my absence.
Horrid political economy, horrid geography, horrid German.
Mr. Ernest Worthing has just driven over from the station. He has brought his luggage with him.
Mr. Ernest
Miss Prism were in the garden, and he seemed very anxious to speak to you privately for a moment.
Tell Mr. Ernest Welling to come out here. And I suppose you'd better talk to the housekeeper about a room for him.
Yes,
I've never met a really wicked person before. I feel rather frightened. I'm so afraid he will look just like everyone else. He does.
You are my little cousin Cecily, I'm sure.
You are under some strange mistake. I am not at all little. In fact, I am more than usually tall for my age. But I am your cousin Cecily. You, I see from your card, are Uncle Jack's brother. My cousin Ernest. My wicked cousin Ernest.
Oh, I'm not really wicked at all, Cecily. You mustn't think that I'm wicked.
If you are not, then you've certainly been deceiving us all in a most inexcusable manner. I hope you've not been leading a double life, pretending to be bad and really being good all the time. That would be hypocrisy.
I have been rather reckless.
I'm glad to hear it.
And now that you mention the subject, I've been very bad in my own small way.
I'm not sure you should be so proud of that, although I'm sure it must have been very pleasant.
It is much pleasanter being here with you.
I can't see how you're here at all. Uncle Jack won't be back until Monday afternoon.
That is a great shame. I'm obliged to go up by the first train on Monday morning. I have a business appointment that I'm anxious to miss.
Couldn't you miss it anywhere but in London?
No, the appointment is in London.
Well, I know, of course, how important it is not to keep a business engagement if one wants to retain any sense of the beauty of life. But I really do think you should wait until Uncle Jack gets back. I know he wants to speak to you about your emigrating.
About my what?
Your emigrating. He's gone up to buy your outfit.
Well, I certainly wouldn't let Jack buy my outfit. He has no taste in neckties at all.
I don't think it will require neckties. Uncle Jack is sending you to Australia.
Australia? I'd sooner die.
Well, he said at dinner on Wednesday night that you would have to choose between this world, the next world, and Australia.
Well, the accounts I've received of Australia and the next world are not particularly encouraging. This world is good enough for me, Cecily.
Yes, but are you good enough for it?
I'm afraid I'm not that. That's why I want you to reform me. You might make that your mission, if you don't mind, Cousin Cecily.
I'm afraid I have no time this afternoon.
Well, then do you mind my reforming myself this afternoon?
It is rather quixotic of you, but I think you should try.
I will. I feel better already.
You're looking a little worse.
Well, that is because I'm hungry.
Focus on me. I should have remembered that whenever one is going to lead an entirely new life, one requires regular and wholesome meals. When you come in.
Thank you. Might I have a buttonhole first? I never have any appetite unless I have a buttonhole first.
A Maréchal?
No, I sooner have a pink rose.
Why?
Because you are like a pink rose, Cousin Cecily.
I don't think it would be right for you to talk to me like that. Miss Prism never says such things.
And Miss Prism is a short-sighted old lady. You are the most beautiful girl I ever saw.
Miss Prism says all good looks are a snare.
They're a snare that every sensible man would like to be caught in.
Oh, I don't think I would care to catch a sensible man. I wouldn't know what to talk to him about.
You are too much alone, dear doctor. You should get married. A misanthrope I can understand. A womanthrope, never.
Oh, believe me, Miss Prism, I do not deserve so neologistic a phrase. The precept, as well as the practice of the primitive church, was distinctly against matrimony.
That is clearly why the primitive church has not lasted up until the present day. You do not seem to understand, dear doctor, that by persistently remaining single, you convert yourself into a permanent public temptation. This very celibacy leads weaker vessels astray.
But is a man not equally attractive when married?
No married man is ever attractive, except to his wife.
Not when I've been told, not even to her.
Mr. Worthing!
Mr. Worthing?
We did not expect you until Monday afternoon.
I have returned sooner than I expected. You are well, I trust, Dr. Chasuble?
Dear Mr. Worthing, I trust this garb of woe does not betoken some dreadful calamity.
My brother, dead,
Ernest?
quite dead.
What a lesson for him. I trust you will...
Mr. Worthing, you have my sincere condolence. But you have the consolation of knowing that you're always the most generous and forgiving of brothers.
Poor Ernest. He had his faults, it is true, but still, it is a sad blow.
Yeah. Very sad indeed. Were you with him at the end?
No, he died abroad, in Paris, in fact. I received a telegram last night from the manager of the Grand Hotel.
Was the cause of death mentioned?
Yes, a severe chill, it seems.
As a man sows, so shall he reap.
Oh, charity, dear Miss Prism, charity. None of us are perfect. I myself am particularly susceptible to drafts.
Oh, no. He seems to have expressed a desire to be buried in Paris.
In Paris? I fear that hardly speaks to any very serious state of mind at the last. I trust you'll want me to make some allusion to this tragic domestic affliction in my sermon next Sunday. My sermon on the meaning of the manna in the desert can be applied to almost any occasion, joyous or, as in the present case, distressing. I preached it at harvest celebrations, christenings, confirmations, or days of humiliation, and festival days.
That reminds me, you mentioned christenings, I think, Dr. Chasuble. I suppose you know how to christen all right? I mean, you are continually christening, are you not?
It is, I regret to say, one of the rector's most constant duties in this parish. I'm always talking to the poorer classes on the subject, but they don't seem to know what thrift is.
Is there any particular infant in whom you're interested, Mr. Worthing? Your brother was, I believe, unmarried, was he not?
Oh, yes.
People who live entirely for pleasure usually are.
But it is not for any infant, dear doctor. No, I'm quite fond of children. No, the fact is, myself, I would like to be christened this afternoon, if you have nothing better to do.
But surely, Mr. Worthing, you've been christened already.
I don't remember anything about it.
Have you any great doubts on the subject?
Well, I certainly intend to have. Of course, I don't know if the thing would bother you in any way, or if you think I'm a little too old now.
No, not at all, not at all. Sprinkling, and indeed immersion of adults is a perfectly economical practice.
Immersion?
Oh, you need have no apprehension that a sprinkling is all that is necessary, or indeed I think advisable. Our weather is so changeable. When would you like the ceremony performed?
Well, would 5:30 do?
Admirably. Now, Mr. Worthing, I will intrude no longer into a house of sorrow. Though I would beg of you not to be too bowed down by grief. What seem to us bitter trials are often blessings in disguise.
This seems to me a blessing of a peculiarly obvious kind.
Uncle Jack! I'm so pleased to see you back. What horrid clothes you have on! Do go and change them.
Cecily!
My child!
Uncle Jack, what is the matter? You look happy. You look as if you had toothache, and I have got such a surprise for you. Guess who's in the dining room? Your brother! Ernest! You arrived about half an hour ago.
What nonsense! I haven't got a brother.
Oh, Uncle Jack, don't say that. However badly he may have behaved to you in the past, he is still your brother. You couldn't be so heartless as to disown him. I'll go and tell him to come out, and you will shake hands with him, won't you, Uncle Jack?
These are joyful tidings.
Which being resigned to his loss, his sudden return seems to me particularly distressing.